On a Sunday night built on roast chicken and expectations, Marilyn's family ambushes her with a single entitled sentence. When we move into your duplex, the room tilts. Years of sweat, savings, and solitude are suddenly up for a vote she never agreed to. Pinned between guilt and duty, she finds an unexpected ally, Grandma Ruth, who reminds her that love without boundaries is servitude. What follows is a quiet war. Numbers sharpened into armor, a courtroom staged in a dining room, and a daughter who finally says no. This isn't about a house. It's about a woman claiming the right to keep what she built. Hello, I never imagined my family would ambush me at the dinner table, but that's exactly what happened one Sunday evening. We were all seated around my parents' dining room. Mom's roast chicken, Dad's beer, the twins already making a mess of their mashed potatoes, when Vanessa, my sister-in-law, cleared her throat. Her tone was syrupy sweet, the kind she usually reserved for customer service reps when she wanted something for free. So, Marilyn, she began, her eyes locking on mine, when we move into your duplex, I want the master bedroom renovated. It's only fair, since we'll be living there long term. The words slammed into me like a car crash. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. The cheesecake bite never made it in. The room tilted sideways as if I had slipped into some alternate reality. Did she just say when they move into my duplex? Not if. I glanced around the table, expecting someone, anyone, to correct her. To laugh and say, Vanessa's joking. But no. My mom nodded encouragingly as though this was a perfectly normal announcement. My dad leaned back with the satisfied smile of a man who believed a decision had already been made. Even Jackson, my younger brother, avoided eye contact, staring down at his plate with unusual intensity. It was like they had all rehearsed this moment without me. For a few long seconds, I couldn't breathe. This duplex wasn't just some spare property. It was the single biggest achievement of my life. I had worked 7 days a week for 5 years. No vacations, no brunches, no impulse shopping, just grinding, saving, hustling. I put down $60,000 of my own money. Not a cent of help from my parents, not even a dime of inheritance. Every wall painted, every tile laid, every floor sanded. I had done with my own 2 hands. This place wasn't just a house. It was proof that I could stand on my own. My independence, my sweat, my sacrifice. And now, they were casually planning to take it from me. Vanessa smirked, already scrolling on her phone. Oh, and the kitchen could use stainless steel appliances. I have some Pinterest boards I can show you later. My mother reached over and patted my hand like I was a stubborn child. Sweetie, family is more important than money. Jackson and Vanessa need stability right now. You're just one person. You don't need all that space. Just one person. There it was. The unspoken family narrative I'd been battling for years. That my life, my needs, my space were somehow less valuable because I was single and childless. I felt heat rising in my cheeks. This is completely out of the question, I managed, trying to keep my voice steady. That's my home. My name is on the deed. I pay the mortgage. You can't just... Don't be selfish. My father cut me off, his tone sharp with that old authority from my childhood. Your brother has a family to support. You'll figure something out. Selfish, materialistic, cold. The labels landed on me like stones. But beneath the hurt, something inside me snapped awake. They weren't asking. They were deciding. Without me, without my consent, without even acknowledging the years I'd sacrificed to make this dream real. And in that moment, I knew this was more than just a fight over property. This was the moment my family was about to test how much of myself I was willing to give up just to keep the peace. I set my fork down carefully, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. This is not happening, I said firmly. Silence fell across the table. That was the night I realized the battle for my duplex, the home I had bled and sweated for, had just begun. And it wouldn't just test my finances. It would test my boundaries, my self-worth, and whether I could finally stand up to the people I loved most. That night, after leaving dinner early, I drove home in a fog of disbelief. My parents' house had always been a place of comfort, of childhood memories, of roast chicken and laughter. But the way the evening unfolded, it felt less like family dinner. and more like a courtroom where the verdict had already been decided. I walked into my duplex, my safe space, and dropped my purse on the counter. The hardwood floors gleamed beneath the warm light. The backsplash tiles I had set one by one sparkled faintly. Every corner of this place whispered, "You built me." And yet my family had spoken of it as if it were theirs to redistribute, like a hand-me-down sweater. As I poured myself a glass of water, my phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. My stomach tightened. Against my better judgment, I opened it. 2 full pages, renovation plans, paint colors, a list of appliances, furniture requirements. "We'll need the kids' playroom ready by move-in," she wrote, as if it were already settled. At the bottom, "We can split costs 50-50. I laughed, an ugly, bitter sound. Split costs? Pay thousands to remodel my own home, so she could live in it rent-free. I stared at the glowing screen until the words blurred, and then, beneath the anger came something heavier. A realization. This wasn't new. This was just the latest chapter in a long story. Growing up, I had always been the responsible one, the saver, the planner, the one who did chores without being asked. Jackson, meanwhile, was the golden child with potential. Every time he stumbled, there was a soft landing. When he dropped out of college after 2 years, my parents covered the tuition debt. When he quit his job at a dealership because the manager was unfair, Dad bought him a used car to make up for it. When the twins were born, Mom dipped into her retirement fund to cover the expensive preschool. And every time I noticed the unspoken expectation, Marilyn will be fine. Marilyn doesn't need help. She's single, she's strong, she earns well. Even when I helped quietly, covering a few of Jackson's car payments one year, buying Christmas gifts for the twins when I knew money was tight, those things vanished into the void, never acknowledged, never repaid. It wasn't just about money, it was the pattern. Jackson's needs were treated as family priorities. Mine? Optional, negotiable, disposable. And now they had taken it one step further, not just expecting support, but demanding the roof over my head. The next morning, as I brewed coffee, Mom called. Her tone was clipped. "We need to talk about how you behaved last night," she began, skipping the greeting. "How I behaved?" My voice cracked with disbelief. "You were rude, leaving dinner like that," she continued. "Nobody is asking you to give up anything. We're asking you to share with your family in their time of need." "That's what families do." "Share?" I repeated, gripping the edge of the counter. "Mom, they want me to move out of my own home, give up rental income, and pay for renovations. That's not sharing. That's taking." "You've always been so independent," she sighed, as though it were a flaw. "Ever since you were little, you never wanted to share toys. Is this really who you want to be? Someone who puts possessions above family?" The guilt trip landed like a familiar weight on my chest. I had heard variations of it my whole life. When Jackson broke something of mine, I was told to be understanding. When he borrowed and never returned, I was told to let it go. He's struggling. I swallowed hard. "Mom, this isn't a toy. This is my home. Would you give up your house if someone demanded it?" "That's different," she dismissed. "We're older. We've earned our place. You're still young. You can adjust. Besides, Jackson has a family. You don't." There it was, the dagger. Because I was single, because I had no children, I was less deserving of the space I had fought so hard for. Later that day, Dad asked to meet me for coffee. I agreed, foolishly hoping for reason. He leaned across the table, stirring his coffee too long. "Princess," he said, using the nickname that used to make me feel loved, now wielded like a tool. "Let's talk reasonably. This duplex situation could be a win-win. Jackson and Vanessa get stability. You get to help your brother, and eventually they could even buy it from you." I nearly choked. "With what money? They can't even pay rent." He waved the objection away. "Down the road, maybe. The point is, this is what family does. When I was starting out, your grandfather helped me with a house." "Did he give you his house?" I asked sharply. "Did he move out so you could take over?" "That's different," Dad said, his jaw tightening. "I thought I raised you better than this, to be generous. A young single woman like you should be more giving." There it was again, my singlehood, weaponized. My hard work, reduced to materialism. But as I left that cafe, something crystallized in me. For years, I had carried the quiet weight of being the responsible one. For years, I had let the guilt press me into silence. But not this time. Because this wasn't just about a duplex. It was about whether my worth as a daughter, a sister, a woman would always be measured as less, simply because I stood on my own. And I was done carrying that weight. 2 nights after the ambush dinner, I drove out to visit the one person in my family who had never once made me feel small, Grandma Ruth. At 82, she still lived in the same little white house with blue shutters where I'd spent countless summer afternoons reading on her porch swing. The minute I stepped through the door, she looked at me with those sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Something's wrong," she said simply. And just like that, the wall I had been holding up crumbled. Over cups of chamomile tea at her kitchen table, I poured out everything. The dinner ambush, Vanessa's renovation list, my parents, guilt trips, Dad's coffee shop lecture. When I finally fell silent, my throat raw from talking, Grandma leaned back and studied me. "Oh, honey," she said softly, "you've been carrying this family on your back for years, and now they want to climb right into the house you built." Her words pierced straight through me. "But what do?" I asked. "If I say no, I'm the selfish daughter. If I say yes, I lose everything I worked for." Grandma reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Marilyn, listen to me. Family love is not measured by how much you let them take. Love with no boundaries isn't love. It's servitude. You don't owe anyone your home. And don't you let them twist your independence into a flaw. It's your strength." Tears blurred my vision. All my life, I'd been told independence was cold. Grandma reframed it as resilience. Then she gave me the advice that became the seed of my plan. If they won't respect your no, then you need to show them the consequences. Not to be cruel, but to be clear. That night, lying awake in bed, her words replayed in my head. Consequences. My parents and Jackson had lived in a bubble where helping always meant bailing him out. They had never faced the real cost of those decisions. If I wanted them to respect my boundaries, I had to put numbers and facts in front of them. I had to turn the abstract into reality. So I created Operation Consequence. Step 1. Financial reality check. The next morning, I booked an appointment with a financial advisor recommended by a colleague. David, a meticulous man with wire-rimmed glasses, reviewed my mortgage, rental income, and expenses. He didn't sugarcoat. "Letting your brother live in your unit rent-free would cost you $20,000 a year in lost income," he said. My stomach clenched. "And if you moved out too, adding rent for yourself, you'd be looking at about $40,000 annually. Plus the $25,000 to $30,000 they want for renovations." He slid a sheet of calculations toward me. "Over 5 years, you're staring at a potential loss of over $200,000. That's not helping family, that's financial ruin." Step 2. Legal clarity. I met with Jennifer, a real estate attorney. She shook her head when I explained the family agreement my father had tried to push across the table. "Not binding, not safe," she said. "And if they move in without a lease, good luck ever getting them out. Family cases like this often end up in court." She leaned forward. "If you take only one piece of advice from me, do not let them through that door. Not even for a weekend." Step 3. Backup support. I called my best friend Sarah. Over takeout noodles, she listened, then told me bluntly, "You're not crazy, Marilyn. They are. You've earned this home. If they want stability, they can find it the way you did, by working for it." Her outrage steadied me. Where my parents made me question myself, Sarah reminded me that my instincts were sane. With each step, the fog of guilt began to lift. Instead of just reacting, I was building a strategy. I gathered documents. My mortgage statements. Rental income records. The advisor's calculations showing the projected losses. The attorney's written summary of risks. Then, I did something I knew would drive the point home. I researched affordable housing options in our area. Apartments within Jackson's budget. Assistance programs they could apply for. Even job postings Vanessa could do during school hours. If my family was going to accuse me of abandoning my brother, I wanted to look them in the eye and say, "I'm not abandoning him. I'm offering solutions that don't involve destroying my life." On Friday night, I spread the paperwork across my dining table. The polished wood, the shelves of books, the plants catching the glow of the lamp, all of it reminded me what I was fighting for. This wasn't just property, it was proof of every weekend I'd stayed home instead of traveling, every side gig I'd taken on while friends went out, every hour I'd sanded floors until my hands blistered, And I finally realized saying no wasn't selfish. It was honoring the blood, sweat, and years I had already poured in. Grandma's words echoed, "Love with no boundaries isn't love, it's servitude." Operation Consequence was ready. The next time they tried to corner me, I would not come empty-handed. I would come armed with truth. And for the first time since that dinner ambush, I felt something new. Not guilt, not fear. Power. By Sunday afternoon, the summons came. My mother's voice on the phone was sweet but firm. "Marilyn, we're all gathering again tonight. It's time we settle this duplex situation once and for all. Bring yourself and your good sense." The implication was clear. They expected me to show up ready to surrender. I hung up, heart pounding, then glanced at the folders spread across my dining table. Mortgage statements, financial projections, legal notes, housing alternatives. No, I thought. This time, I won't be cornered. This time, I go in prepared. Walking into my parents' house that evening felt like stepping into a courtroom where I was both defendant and prosecutor. The dining table was set with the good china, the kind that only appeared on Thanksgiving and Christmas. Aunts and uncles were there too, sitting stiff-backed as if summoned for a verdict. Jackson sat beside Vanessa, who looked like she was about to present at a board meeting. In front of her was a glossy folder stuffed with papers. My father stood at the head of the table, presiding like a judge. My mother, ever the hostess, fluttered between chairs, pouring water, her eyes darting nervously. The message was unmistakable. "This is serious. You are outnumbered." I took my seat at the far end, deliberately placing my own folder in front of me, spine straight, gaze steady. Dad cleared his throat. "We're here to come to a family agreement about the duplex. Jackson and Vanessa need stability for the twins, and it's time you understood your role in making that happen." Before I could reply, Vanessa opened her folder with a theatrical flourish. "Thank you, Thomas," she said smoothly. "Now here's what we've envisioned." She began passing out color printouts, floor plans, renovation sketches, even Pinterest-style mood boards of kitchens, with stainless steel appliances and children's playrooms with pastel walls. "This is how we'll maximize the space," she explained, as if she already lived there. "We'd knock down this wall to create a playroom, update the kitchen with modern finishes, and of course, renovate the master suite. It'll be perfect for raising the twins long-term." I stared at the plans, speechless. They had designed my future without me. Jackson leaned forward, trying to sound conciliatory. "Look, Marilyn, this isn't just for us. It'll increase the property value, too. You'll benefit down the road." My mother nodded eagerly. "See? Everyone wins." "Not everyone," I said quietly, but no one seemed to hear. Dad pulled a document from his own folder and slid it toward me. "Here's the agreement we've drafted. Nothing legal, just a family arrangement. It outlines that Jackson and Vanessa can live in the duplex rent-free for at least 3 years while you relocate to something more appropriate for your situation. You'll share the renovation costs, of course. Then, once they're back on their feet, we'll revisit." The paper stared back at me like a trap. At the bottom was a space for my signature. For a moment, silence pressed down, thick and suffocating. I thought of Grandma Ruth's words. "Love with no boundaries isn't love, it's servitude." I reached for my own folder. "Before I respond," I said, my voice steady despite my racing pulse, "there are some things you all need to see." I passed copies of David's financial calculations down the table. Columns of numbers, red figures circled in bold ink. If I let Jackson and Vanessa move in rent-free, I lose $20,000 a year in rental income. If I give up my own unit too, that's $40,000 a year plus $25,000 to $30,000 in renovations. Over 5 years, I'd lose over $200,000. Murmurs rippled around the table. My uncle squinted at the papers. My aunt's eyebrows shot up. Dad waved a hand dismissively. "Money isn't everything. Money is what pays the mortgage." I cut in. My voice rang sharper than I intended, but I didn't apologize. "Without that income, I can't keep this house, and you're asking me to risk everything." Next, I pulled out Jennifer's legal summary. Here's what a real estate attorney told me. If Jackson and Vanessa move in without a formal lease, they'll be considered tenants, even if they don't pay rent. Getting them out could take months of court battles. I could lose the property entirely. Vanessa's face reddened. "That's ridiculous. We're family, not strangers." Exactly, I replied. Families should respect boundaries, not exploit them. Finally, I slid a packet toward Jackson. I also researched affordable housing options. Riverdale Commons has 3-bedroom units for $1,500, cheaper than what you're paying now. I included assistance programs you might qualify for and job opportunities that fit your schedule. For the first time, Jackson looked surprised. He glanced down at the packet instead of meeting my eyes. The room was tense, the silence heavy with disbelief. My father's jaw was tight. My mother's hands trembled in her lap. Vanessa looked ready to explode. But I sat straighter, calmer than I'd felt in weeks. I wasn't the defendant anymore. I was the one presenting evidence, the one demanding reality be seen. For once, it wasn't about guilt or manipulation. It was about truth. The text came the next morning. Meet me at the cafe on Main, 12 p.m. We need to talk. Dad. No question mark, no choice. Just an order, like when I was 16 and he demanded I be home before curfew. For a second, I considered ignoring it, but something in me wanted the confrontation. I wanted him to hear me, without Vanessa smirking beside him, without Mom nodding along. When I walked into the cafe, Dad was already there, 2 coffees on the table. One black, one with cream, my usual. He still remembered. Princess, he said, using the childhood nickname he only pulled out when he wanted to soften me up. I sat across from him, spine straight. Dad, he leaned back, folding his hands over his stomach. Let's talk reasonably about this duplex mess. Mess? I asked, my tone flat. He sighed heavily, the way he did when a math problem didn't go the way he expected. Your mother and I have been discussing this. Jackson and Vanessa need a stable home for the twins. You're in the perfect position to provide that. Eventually, when they get back on their feet, they could even buy the duplex from you. Win-win. Buy it with what money? I asked quietly. His lips pressed into a thin line. Down the road. You know, when things improve. I shook my head. Dad, they've been waiting for things to improve for 10 years. Meanwhile, I'd be out $40,000 a year, plus renovations. You've seen the numbers. He leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Numbers. That's your problem. You've always been obsessed with numbers, with money. Family isn't a spreadsheet, Marilyn. Family is sacrifice. I bit back a bitter laugh. Sacrifice? I already sacrificed 5 years of my life saving for that house. I gave up vacations, weekends, dinners out. Every inch of those floors I refinished myself. That's sacrifice. He shook his head slowly, disappointment etched in every wrinkle. Do you really want to be the kind of woman who chooses property over people? Who turns her back on her own brother's children? The words hit me like a punch. My nieces, Noah and Emma. Their giggles, their sticky hands reaching for mine at family dinners. Dad knew exactly where to aim. My throat tightened, but I forced myself to breathe. This isn't about choosing property over people. It's about choosing responsibility over enabling. If I give in, Jackson never learns. The twins grow up watching their parents live off handouts. How is that better for them? For a moment, I thought I saw a flicker in his eyes. Hesitation, maybe. Then it was gone. Your grandfather helped me with my first house, he said firmly. That's tradition in this family. Each generation helps the next. Grandpa helped you with the down payment, I countered. He didn't give you his house and move into an apartment. There's a difference. His jaw tightened. You know what I think? I think you're scared. Scared to open your heart. Scared to be generous. That's why you're still single. That's why you'll end up alone in that duplex, with no one to share it with. The cruelty of it stunned me. For a second, I couldn't breathe. Then something inside me snapped. Maybe I am alone, I said, my voice shaking but steady. But at least I'm not building a life on other people's sacrifices. At least I'm standing on my own 2 feet. Can Jackson say the same? His face darkened. Careful, Marilyn. No, I said louder now. You be careful. Because if you keep pushing me, you won't just lose a duplex arrangement. You'll lose me. I won't be guilted into giving up everything I worked for. The table between us felt like a battlefield. He stared at me, eyes hard, waiting for me to flinch. But I didn't. Finally, he exhaled sharply, pushed back his chair, and tossed a few crumpled bills on the table. I hope you like the kind of woman you're becoming, he muttered. And then he left. I sat there, staring at the untouched coffee he'd bought me, my hands trembling. His words echoed in my head, selfish, alone, cold-hearted. But beneath the sting was something else. Resolve. Because in that showdown, for the first time in my life, I hadn't backed down. And I knew, deep down, that was the beginning of taking my power back. The family meeting was staged like a courtroom. I should have known the minute Mom asked me to come over on Sunday and said, "Wear something nice, dear. We want this to be civilized." When I walked into the dining room, the good china was laid out, as if roast chicken and candlelight could disguise the ambush. Around the table sat Mom, Dad, Jackson, and Vanessa, their folder of papers stacked neatly in front of them. Even Aunt Carol and Uncle Mark were there, like witnesses called to testify. I almost laughed. Civilized? No, this was a tribunal. Dad cleared his throat like a judge calling order. We're here to finalize the housing arrangement. Once this is signed, everyone can move forward in peace. He slid a stapled document toward me. Across the top, bold letters read, Family Housing Agreement. My stomach sank. I flipped through the pages. The agreement stated I would allow Jackson and Vanessa to live in both units of my duplex for a minimum of 3 years. I would contribute to renovations to ensure habitability. In return, Jackson and Vanessa might provide modest mortgage assistance when financial circumstances allowed. No numbers, no dates, no lease, just words that gave me nothing and took everything. This isn't legal, I said flatly. It doesn't need to be legal, Mom interjected, her voice soft but firm. It's about trust, about family. Trust. The word burned in my chest. They wanted trust from me after orchestrating this entire coup behind my back. Go ahead and sign, Vanessa said smoothly, pushing a pen across the table. This way, we can start renovations before moving in. Contractors are ready. Renovations? My voice cracked. I didn't approve any renovations. Vanessa flipped open her own folder. Out came glossy floor plans, walls knocked down, the office converted into a craft room, the backyard turned into a play zone. Once we're settled, she continued, you'll see how much better it is. We'll make it a real family home. My pulse pounded in my ears. They weren't asking, they were taking. I closed the folder and pushed it back across the table. No. The silence was deafening. Dad's chair scraped against the floor as he leaned forward. Marilyn, stop being dramatic. Just sign. It's a family agreement. Everyone here agrees it's the right thing. That doesn't make it right, I shot back. You don't get to vote me out of my own house. Mom clasped her hands like she was praying. Please, honey, think of the twins. Do you want them to feel homeless? The guilt pressed heavy, but I forced myself to breathe. No one is homeless. There are rentals all over town. This duplex is my home. And the only thing I'm signing today are my own rules. I pulled a different folder from my bag and placed it squarely in the center of the table. Inside were 3 documents. A signed lease with my new tenants, Michael and Jessica, starting next week. A financial breakdown from my advisor showing I'd lose $40,000 a year if I gave up both units. Legal advice from my attorney warning of the risks of informal family arrangements. This, I said firmly, is the reality. 1 unit is already legally rented. The other is mine. There's no vacancy for you to move into, and if you try, I will take legal action. Faces around the table shifted from shock to anger. You went behind our backs, Dad barked. No, I corrected. I went to protect myself, something none of you were willing to do for me. Vanessa slammed her folder shut. So you're locking your own family out after everything we've been through? I'm not locking anyone out, I said, voice steady now. I'm setting boundaries. New rules for all of us. I took a deep breath, letting the words settle like stones. No one moves into my property without a signed lease, full rent and deposit. No renovations happen without my written approval. I will help Jackson and Vanessa in other ways. Job searches, budgeting, even helping with the deposit for a new rental, but I will not give up my home. Jackson's eyes darted between me and Vanessa. For once he looked ashamed, but Vanessa wasn't backing down. You can't do this, she hissed. I already did, I replied. The locks are changed, the lease is signed, and the law is on my side. The room buzzed with outrage, but beneath it all was something else. Silence from Jackson. He wasn't defending her this time. I gathered my papers, stood, and adjusted my coat. I love this family. But love doesn't mean erasing myself. These are the new rules. If you can't accept them, that's your choice. But I won't be pressured again. As I walked out, their voices rose behind me. Mom's pleading, Dad's angry, Vanessa's sharp like broken glass. But Jackson's voice cut through it, low and uncertain. Maybe she's right. For the first time, I thought he might finally see the truth. The week after the agreement showdown, my phone went quiet. No more guilt-tripping calls from Mom. No more long texts from Vanessa about paint colors. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe inside my own duplex without bracing for another ambush. But silence can be its own kind of punishment. Sunday dinner stopped. My parents didn't invite me, and I didn't ask. Family group chats went dormant, except for the occasional photo of the twins that Vanessa posted. It was like being exiled without anyone saying the words out loud. At first, it hurt more than I wanted to admit. I cried in the shower, where no one could see. I replayed the conversations over and over. Dad calling me selfish, Mom accusing me of valuing property over family, Vanessa rolling her eyes like I was nothing but an obstacle. The guilt whispered late at night. What if they're right? What if I am selfish? But then morning would come. I'd step into the kitchen, I toweled myself, sip coffee while sunlight streamed through the windows I refinished, and remember, I built this life. Every floorboard, every wall, every dollar in the mortgage was mine, and that truth drowned out the guilt, little by little. 2 weeks later, Michael and Jessica moved into the rental unit. They carried boxes with quiet laughter, thanked me for keeping the place so well maintained, and even offered to mow the small patch of shared lawn. Watching them settle in, grateful, respectful, responsible, was like medicine. Proof that my home wasn't a battleground, it was a sanctuary. Still, I knew the family tension hadn't vanished. At work one afternoon, I got a call from Jackson. His voice was lower, steadier than I'd heard in years. Hey sis, can we talk? We met at a park near his apartment. The twins were on the swings, squealing while Vanessa scrolled on her phone nearby. Jackson kicked at the gravel before speaking. I'm sorry about how everything went down. It got out of hand. Vanessa pushed, Mom and Dad pushed, and I let them. I should have stopped it. It wasn't a full apology, but it was more honesty than I expected. Jackson, I said carefully, I love you, but love doesn't mean bailing you out forever. You've got to start building something on your own. He nodded slowly, eyes fixed on the ground. I know, I'm trying. For the first time, I believed him. Months passed. The distance in the family remained, but cracks of reconciliation appeared. Mom invited me to lunch, just the two of us. She didn't mention the duplex once, but halfway through her salad, she sighed. I still don't agree with how you handled it, she said, but I understand now why you felt you had to. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was acceptance. And for us, that was enough. Dad was slower. It took nearly 3 months before he called. His tone was gruff, but there was something new in it. Respect. You stood your ground, he said. Didn't like it, but you didn't back down. Your grandfather would have said you had a backbone. Coming from him, that was almost affection. The biggest surprise, though, was Jackson. Without the duplex safety net, he finally got serious. He took a promotion at the warehouse. Steady hours, better pay. He even picked up weekend shifts to pay off their credit card debt. Vanessa found a part-time job at the twins. School, grumbling about it, but sticking with it. One night, Jackson texted me, "Thanks for not letting us move in. I hated you for it then, but it forced me to grow up." I stared at the message for a long time before replying, "Proud of you, little brother." And I was, truly. 6 months after the confrontation, family dinners resumed. They weren't the same. They were quieter, more cautious. Vanessa barely spoke to me, her eyes sharp as ever. But the shouting was gone. The entitlement was gone. For the first time, I sat at that table and didn't feel cornered. I had boundaries now, and everyone knew it. Living in the duplex feels different, too. It's no longer just a financial plan or a property. It's a symbol. A reminder that I can stand firm, even against the people I love most. That saying no isn't cruelty. It's self-respect. Some nights, I walk through the rooms, running my hand along the bookshelves I built, the floors I refinished. And I whisper to myself, you did this, you fought for this, and you deserve to keep it. I've even started looking at listings for a second investment property, not because I want more space, but because I know now that I'm capable, that I can protect what's mine, build more, and not apologize for it. The lesson wasn't just about money. It was about love, the real kind. Love isn't giving someone everything they ask for. It isn't setting yourself on fire to keep others warm. Real love is telling the truth, even when it hurts. It's letting people face the consequences of their choices so they can grow. My parents still sigh sometimes, wishing I'd helped more. Vanessa still posts cryptic complaints online, but Jackson, he's finally standing on his own 2 feet. And I think, deep down, he respects me for forcing him to. As for me, I sleep soundly in the home I fought for. A home that taught me the hardest boundary is often the most important one. Sometimes, saying no to your family is the only way to finally say yes to yourself. This story isn't just about a house. It's about boundaries. Sometimes the hardest word to say is no, especially when it's to the people you love. But standing firm doesn't mean you're selfish. It means you're protecting the years of sacrifice, your future stability, and most importantly, your self-respect. True family doesn't come from enabling unhealthy patterns. It comes from respect, responsibility, and growth. If this story hit home for you, hit the like button. It helps more people hear stories like this. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had to set a boundary with family, even when they called you selfish? And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful real-life stories about standing up for yourself and protecting what matters most. Because sometimes saying no is the most powerful way to say yes to your own worth.